Hey guys, welcome back here to Advanced Bass Fishing. Appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check it out. And guys, today we're going to be talking about how to locate those quote secret places. You hear people talking about secret spots on a lake. This is sort of like been a big lure in bass fishing for everybody, from like the old timers that had all the spots. So this has changed a lot. It's like technology has basically eliminated a lot of the places that people have found just by spending time on the water over the years. They've figured it out really quick. But there's still some very secret spots on lakes today, and a lot of them are in plain sight. So we're going to talk about that in today's episode. Also, guys, before we get started, a couple quick things here. Just like to invite everybody, anyone interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, guys. We got the jerkbait fishing lessons going right now here in Missouri. Really good fishing right now for jerkbait fishing. If you're interested, shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, for details there. And also, guys, thank you very much for everybody that's been taking advantage and using that Tackle Warehouse link in the video descriptions of every video I do. I know you guys are tired of hearing about it, man, but there's two things you can do to help the channel out here. Number one, hit that subscribe button. Number two, use and bookmark that link of mine. So I really appreciate that. Okay, guys, secret spots were always like a big deal when I was growing up. And it's like the old timers knew them. And it's like they were very tight-lipped about it too, because a lot of these secret places they found was from just hard work and time on the water. And let me give you an example of a secret spot I found. Then I'll tell you what happened to it with technology as advanced. There was a time down in the late 80s and early 90s down at Grand Lake in Oklahoma. I fished down there all the time because my parents had a trailer house on the lake, and we only lived about 30 miles from the lake. So I was down there every weekend for years. And I spent thousands of days on the lake. And this was back when this was before GPS or any type of mapping system. And the only thing that we had was a flasher, like an old Humminbird or Lowrance flasher, and like a geographical survey of the lake. It's like the maps that you get from the U.S. Department of Geological Surveys. They were giant paper maps, and they weren't laminated. They get wet, and it would show some contours on the lake. So I used that to find some offshore structures, and I started catching a lot of bass down at Grand Lake before anyone fished offshore. Everybody that fished Grand Lake, they threw spinner baits and crankbaits and jigs up on the bank. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, I was the only one fishing off the bank. And I got onto it by accident. I was actually white bass fishing I saw a big school of white bass way out off the bank. And I went over there and I started catching some largemouth, and I saw that there was a drop off out there. And one thing led to another. And about the next 5 years, I just dominated all the tournaments on the lake fishing offshore. Let me give you a prime example of the secret spot. Now, you got to realize the place that I'm telling you about here, it wasn't on any map. It's not like it is now, but I was running down the middle of the lake. I was actually in the Horse Creek arm of the lake, mid-lake, and I'm out in the middle of the lake everywhere, and I'm just, running about 30 miles an hour. I'm not looking for anything on my depth finder. I'm just running, I was going to go flip some willow trees or something. And all of a sudden I look down, and the water was like, probably 6 or 7 feet deep where I was running at. And then all of a sudden, it got like 8 foot. And then it went from about 8 to 15, just boom, boom, just like that, out in the middle of the lake. And it's like, what the heck was that? Something was different. So I turned the boat around and I started idling back and forth. And it's like, I couldn't find it. It's like, I know I saw something. I know I saw a drop there. So I idled for like 20 minutes around the area that I thought I saw it. Now, this was back before GPS. I'm out in the middle of the lake everywhere. And finally, I found it, and I threw a marker buoy over. And what it was is the lake was flat, like 6 to 8 foot deep everywhere. And whatever this thing was, I don't know what it was. I still to this day can't really figure out what it is. But all of a sudden, the water broke off from about 8 foot down into 15 feet. In a course of about probably 7 or 8 feet. And it was only about 15 foot wide. So out on this flat, there was some type of a hole or drop off that was about as big around as your boat that had like a 5 or 6 foot drop off on it. Guys, I turned around and fired out a crankbait on that thing, and it was like the mother lode. I milked that spot for 3 years, and I tried to make sure nobody saw me out there. won a bunch of they had big bass tournaments. I won a bunch of those. It was just a honey hole, during the summertime. That's the only time it was any good. But that is a prime example of a secret spot that I found by accident. Now, a couple years later, when GPS came along, people found that. And I saw people fishing it after GPS came out when it was on the mapping system, and it ruined it. So that's a prime example of a secret spot I'm telling you about randomly. But what I want to talk about in the video today is the secret spots that exist within plain sight in today's bass fishing that you don't need this type of equipment for, or any type of offshore awareness. It's in plain sight. So the first secret spot that you're going to notice is any type of isolated structure that's out of the way. This is a secret spot. So let's say, for example, you're running down the lake, and you got on the right hand side of you maybe look over there, and there's a really good looking rocky bank, a rock transition, nice looking bluff. And then you're running down the lake, and there's a row of 20 boat docks. And then you're running down further, and you notice this shoreline that's got 20 lay down trees on it, or maybe a big lily pad field. And all of a sudden you're running down this bare bank, like a bare gravelly looking nothing bank. And there's one log on the water that's this big around and 5 foot long, and this log's in the water. 99% of the people are not going to stop and fish that one log because there's nothing else there. It's if you go over to fish that one log, you're going to fish one log and you're going to have to leave. Most people tend to be a little lazy, so they don't want to pull up there and get up out of their seat and drop the trolling motor and pick up their rod, make 2 or 3 casts, pick it up and leave for one thing. Those are secret areas, guys. Anytime you have isolated cover away from any other cover, it can be one boat dock just sitting by itself. It can be one lay down tree sitting by itself. It could be, a piling or a big rock, or, a concrete abutment. Anything that is an isolated piece of structure that is not on or close to a good looking area is a secret bass magnet. There's always a quality fish living there. Now, you may not catch a bunch of fish there, but I can't tell you guys, that is what I look for in a secret spot. If I see a place that I don't think anyone else is going to take the time to fish it, that's when I go fish it. And that's the mentality you have to have. And here's what I want you to try over the next year. Next time you're at the lake and you're running down the lake and you see something that catches your eye, but you say, that's not worth it, you got to realize that's what everybody else says. So just go over there and fish that. It's going to make a big, big difference in that. Okay, other secret spots that you're talking about, and this is something that you really have to pay attention to, have a good pair of sunglasses on, is objects that are just under the surface of the water. Keep an eye out for this, because if you're fishing down a bank and you got some cover or whatever, once in a while you're going to look down in the water and you're going to notice that far under the water there's a log or something's going to be under the water. Take note of that and come back to that. I don't know how many times, guys, where I've been fishing down a bank, throwing a crankbait down a flat bank or something, and my trolling motor will hit something that I can't see, and it's a log that far under the water. Or you look down there and you see somebody put out a brush pile that far underneath the water. Those are secret spots, and you need to mark them and come back and fish them. And one of my favorite ways to mark something, guys, it's really easy to do. Just take a stick, some type of a stick maybe that big around, just put a little line on it with a little rock or a little weight on it, and just toss it out, by that piece of isolated submerged cover. So the next time you come past that, or maybe you can come past that an hour later, come back into it, those are magnets for bass. I almost won the Bassmaster Classic at High Rock Lake in 1998 with that very same pattern. I got out on this flat and there were some isolated, visible lay-down trees out there, but as I would work between them, they were isolated. There wasn't a lot of them. I would notice these little dark spots, little pieces of logs that were just under the water. That's what I almost won that tournament on. I didn't catch hardly anything off the visible stuff. They were all on the invisible stuff with that. So those are just prime examples, guys. I'm talking about secret spots. Secret spots are out of the way places that people don't mess with, that are in plain sight. One other thing I'll leave you guys with, sort of along the same lines of what I'm talking about with the isolated structure, is when you run down a lake, you need to pay attention to how people run down a lake. Because normally, let's say, for example, if you launch, you put your boat into the launch ramp, right? and you're in a cove, and you have to come out of this cove to get out on the main lake, and you can either go right or left. Now, you got to realize that most people, they're going to go right or they're going to go left, and they're going to stay down on that bank as they run down the lake. You need to concentrate when you run out of a spot, like when you launch your boat and you run out of an area, look around you and say, what is the out of way route here? It's like I'm watching most people going left here and they're running down the lake, but look across the lake over there and nobody's running over there. That is one of those areas I'm talking about that can be a secret spot that do not receive as much fishing pressure, because one thing you will find is that when you have a public boat ramp, a lot of people will stay on the side of the lake that ramp is located on. Not everybody, but more than not, there'll be more people that just stay on that side of the lake and bypass all those other areas. It's the same thing like if you're cutting a corner. Let's say this my finger right here is a main lake point. A lot of people will run around that point like this, and the other part of the lake is over here. So they'll run around that point and they'll never go on the other side of the lake there because they're trying to, come close to the point there. Anyway, that's just a few examples. Main thing, guys, is just pay attention to what everybody else is not fishing, and that is the secret spots in 2025. So hope it helps you guys out. We'll talk later.